Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi şrah li sadri ve yessir li emri ve ehlul ukdeten min lisani yefkahu kavli. Selamun aleyküm ve rahmetullahi ve berekatuhu. And inshallah we will continue with the 12th proof. This is 22nd word, first station and 12th proof.
Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Elhamdülillahi Rabbil alemin. Esselatu vesselamu ala Resulina Muhammedin ve ala alihi ve ashabihi ve etbarihi ve sellem. We are reading from 22nd word, first station, 12th proof. Come, my brother, who has come to his senses a little. I shall show you a further proof of the strength of all the 11 preceding proofs. See this luminous decree, which descends from above and which everyone looks on in rapt attention out of either wonder or veneration. Footnote: the luminous decree refers to the Quran and the seal on it to its miraculousness. Reading it again. See this luminous decree, which descends from above and which everyone looks on in rapt attention out of either wonder or veneration. The one with the 1,000 decorations has stopped by it and is explaining its meaning to everyone. So I guess the one with 1,000 decorations was in the 11th proof as the messenger. The one with the 1,000 decorations has stopped by it and is explaining its meaning to everyone. The styles of the decree so shine, they attract everyone's appreciative gaze. And it speaks of matters so important and serious that everyone is compelled to give ear to them. For it describes all the qualities, acts, commands, and attributes of the one who governs this whole land, who made this palace and exhibits these wonders. Just as there is Midas stamp on the decree as a whole, look, there is an inimitable seal on every line and every sentence. And moreover, the meanings, truths, commands, and instances of wisdom it states are seen to be in a style particular to him, thus bearing the meanings of a stamp. In short, the supreme decree shows the supreme being as clearly as the sun, so that anyone who is not blind can see it. I'm concluding the chapter. My friend, if you have come to your senses, this is enough for now. If you have something to say, say it. In reply, the obstinate man said, I can only say this is in the face of these proofs of yours. All praise be to God, for I have come to believe. And I believe in a way bright as the sun and clear as daylight that this country has a single king of perfection, this world a single glorious owner, and this palace a single beauteous maker. May God be pleased with you, for you have saved me from my former obstinacy and foolishness. Each of the proofs you showed was sufficient to demonstrate the truth, but because with each successive proof, clearer, pleasanter, more agreeable, more luminous, finer levels of knowledge, with an acquaintanceship and windows of love were opened and revealed, I waited and listened. The story in the form of a comparison indicating the mighty truth of divine unity and belief in God has reached its conclusion. Through the grace of the Most Merciful, the effulgence of the Quran and the light of belief, we shall now set out 12 flashes and an introduction from the Son of true divine unity corresponding to the 12 proofs in the story. Success and guidance are from God alone.
So the way I see it, just as a short comment, is that we're studying the divine unity. So a book which covers every need of human, which provides a guidance as comprehensive as we need, must be coming from a source which has control on everything. And this is because we as humans, we have needs which looks everywhere. So the guidance should be all-compassing. And I take this method, like this is why I understand, because it says, for it describes all the qualities, acts, comments, and attributes of the one who governs this whole land, who made this palace and exhibits these wonders. So when you read something from Quran, it speaks from the name, the highest name, which looks at all these different actions. And any message in Quran looks at every action that we see in the creation. So it's obvious that it's coming from a source which which has control on everything, creates everything. And another part, the second part, this 12th proof also talks about how the style of Quran also agrees with the style of the creation, and also every sentence has a stamp in it, telling that all these different messages in the Quran coming from the same source. Instances of wisdom, it states, are seen to be in a style particular to him, thus bearing the meaning of a stamp. So let's start from the beginning then. Just a second to the siren goes away. Come, my brother, who has come to his senses a little, I shall show you a further proof of the strength of all the 11 preceding proofs. See this luminous decree, which is Quran, which descends from above and which everyone looks on it, rapt attention out of either wonder or veneration. What is veneration? Abdurrahman, maybe you can help us with your wisdom. Anyone else? Veneration?
Basically giving praise or speaking highly of something.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. Things like from time to time, I guess I should ask some questions so that I would know that somebody is listening. So far we know Abdurrahman is alive, Ashanur is alive, Asim and Yusuf are with us. So which descends from above and which everyone on it looks on in rapt attention out of either wonder or veneration. So what do you understand from that? Like which descends from above and everyone looks out of, like with a wonder and veneration. Descends from above. Any idea? Like, I really not asking because fishing, I don't know what should I understand from that part. Which descends from above. Asim, please go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so from what I'm understanding, like when he says descends from above, so maybe he's talking about the language and the style that, the speech of God is mentioning, or this decree is about. So like all the previous proofs he was saying, like, are pretty much further strengthened by the decree, or this Quran is actually in conformance with, based on what the observation is of what the universe is and what the teacher or the messenger has been pointing out. And so as he was speaking in the previous proofs, so here he's saying this further corroborate, like it adds to the value in terms of, or supports it, corroborates, or makes it more real, that all those previous proofs are also like gives them more validity. And that's what, being descent from the above, and which everyone looks on. So based on all the questions, human questions that everybody was, realizing from the previous proofs, and then they get their, they read this and they say, yeah, this is exactly how I'm feeling, or these are some of my questions while I am in this universe. And then it feels as if this is something familiar. Somebody who is providing the speech knows me, or knows what I'm feeling or sensing, and then is, talking to me in that way. So that's what I understood, like with the rapt attention, wonder and veneration, in terms of like, this must be true. Yeah, this is amazing how the one who gives existence to these things is wonderful, is great, is awesome.
Jazakallah khair. Aisha, please go ahead.
Oh yeah, just something else that had come to mind from the words which descends from above. I was having this conversation with someone just during the retreat about the way in which the Quran addresses its reader. Oftentimes it says, like, we have brought this down, it has descended upon you. I use like the word nazala, to send down or to also reveal. And that it's also like for it to say that it's descending down, also being indicative of how it's this address of creator to creation. I'm not sure where to go with that, but something along the lines of just, I guess, readying the mindset or perspective with which I'm to approach this speech that descends down onto me. Yeah, that's all.
Jazakallah khair. That was a helpful line of thought. Like, some ideas started to form in my mind. But before that, Yusuf, please go ahead.
Well, along the lines of what Aisha Nur was saying, so yeah, for example, Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. So we revealed, or we sent down this message on the day of Qadr, for example. So I guess when I'm in trouble and I'm not able to find a solution to a problem, generally I am getting lost in my horizontal relationships with everything. And I am being in need of an outside perspective. So this reminds me of this, like as if we are all getting stuck in this horizontal relationships with the beings. And I need a gaze from above, who is not bound to with any of the relations that we got stuck with, which is in this case, along the lines of this text, being the maker of this palace. So he is looking from above. So this perspective from above is going to tell me where I'm getting stuck. So I guess this is a way to understand what it means that it is coming from high, from above.
Makes sense. This also reminded me, I might be just repeating same thing, but like the way we understand the creator or the creation is we look around, we observe things, we see things, we experience things, and from these experiences, from these observations, we make inferences, or we come to a conclusion about the unseen. So in a way, from low-level representations around us, low-level, the actions taking place around us, we reach a higher level conclusion. We come to understand what they mean, for instance, right, as we read them. And a Quran being descending from above, it kind of tells me that my conclusions, or what I conclude with, will be confirmed or maybe nullified, rejected by the message, by the Quran, which comes from above, comes from the realm that I'm trying to reach. So it will come and tell me whether what I concluded is right or wrong, or in the points, as Yusuf was saying, when I cannot make sense of something, right, when I cannot reach above, it will tell me what is the answer. A guidance from above, guidance from the realm, the place I'm trying to reach. Or maybe in more practical terms, what Yusuf said makes more sense. A guidance looking from above, so that will tell me about the complete picture, a big picture that I'm losing. Another comments about this part? Otherwise, we can continue. Okay, let's continue. So it says everyone looks out of wonder, with an attention out of wonder or veneration, respect. The one with the 1,000 decorations, the prophet, has stopped by it and is explaining its meaning to everyone. So there is this guidance, but we are still not left alone. There is also a messenger and interpreter, which will tell us, which will explain us its subtle meanings. Yusuf, please go ahead.
At the beginning, he said, I shall show you a further proof of the strength of all the 11 preceding proofs. As of now, he is putting Quran at the very center. And at the very last, but at the very center. So, as if this is implying that, so I'm now trying to understand the journey that he started from. He started from the creation. So I guess for a human like me, starting with the scripture is going to be very much maybe biased, because scripture means speech of a maker, but the notion of maker is not there for me yet. But once I get used to the idea of, yes, there must exist a maker, and then I have also seen that there is this human messenger who is very strongly telling me about the maker as well. Now, at the very core, brings the idea of speech of that maker. And then from the 12th proof, now looking back, everything becomes an interpretation of this speech. So this was an interesting point for me. Then, I mean, reading the scripture in the light of the messenger plus the universe.
Reading the scriptures in the by considering the creation and the prophet. Okay. Any other comments? The styles. So I would continue, but now I saw Sohail's name, which reminded me his presentation in the retreat. So talking about like a Quran coming from, descending from above. Yes, we are talking about the creation. We are talking about, making sense of creation. But I guess Quran being sent from above also tells us that your conclusions, your the meanings that you arrive, that you reach by looking at the creation, must be above what is above. It shouldn't be about the things themselves, or it shouldn't be about the relationship between things, or this horizontal, the relationship. But you should arrive what is above from the creation. Otherwise, you're not using your reasoning, you're not you're not completing your journey. So you should be reaching to above, or you should at least be directed, like oriented, looking at above, so that Quran will come and give you some answers. Otherwise, just observing the universe, trying to make sense of it without looking above, it's just a waste of time. It's just, studying the physical features, properties of the things around us, saying that, okay, this car going with that speed, and then the rock is falling down with such an acceleration and so on. We should be looking above so that the Quran coming from above will be a part of our life. It will be part of our journey. I hope what I said was meaningful, Suhail. I hope I studied my homework well. So let's continue, inshallah. The one with the 1,000 decoration has stopped by it and is explaining its meaning to everyone. So reading Quran, the scriptures, by considering to profit, what Yusuf said. The styles of the degree so shine, they attract everyone's attractive gaze. And it speaks of matters so important and serious that everyone is compelled to give ear to them. So this, from the beginning, he says everyone's attentions were attracted with wonder, veneration. Now says everyone is compelled to give ear. Everyone's appreciative gaze, not attractive. Everyone's appreciative gaze. So what is this talking about everyone? Like, why everyone is compelled to give ear? Yusuf, please go ahead.
Well, I guess I got stuck with the previous part, so I will make a comment about the previous step. As in the retreat, we were talking about messenger again, and in between the discussions, there was a conversation going on. So something like very simple, apparently mundane actions of the messenger are being narrated to us, and what shall I do with that sort of a behavior? So I guess in this sentence, it's also reminding us that the messenger stands by the scripture and explains us the scripture. So when I'm going to interpret his actions, I should be keeping that in mind, that this person is not like, well, he is a person like me, for example. And yeah, I go to work, I do things, and if you like, as a hobby, time to time, I am studying scripture. And once a week, we are coming together and you are listening to time my comments about what I understand from life, from existence, whatever. Messenger is not as such. Messenger's duty is to stand by the Quran and explain the Quran to the people with all his human senses, human faculty. So in this way, I should be evaluating his life and his actions in the light of what does Quran tell me, and the messenger is acting in this certain way. So what sort of a message did he understood from the scripture that he is acting as such? With that perspective, I should be trying to understand the messenger as well. And sorry for dragging you back.
Oh, no, that's a great point. There's a hot topic, which I like. So Yusuf, what you are saying is interesting, interesting in a real sense. It's not something that can be accepted easily. And, I'm not saying this as a part of rhetoric. I'm not trying to, just attract your attention, but what you are saying is really, even in our age, is something strange. Like you're saying that an attitude that most of us take is the usual attitude that, forget about, what he was doing, how he was doing. He was just a human being. He was living his life. And also teaching the message, so we should just look at the message, which is, who cares how he was speaking or walking? He was just a man like us, and he has to walk. He had to walk, he had to eat. So it doesn't mean how he ate. It only means, what he was thinking when he was eating, or what he was trying to convey when he was eating in a certain way. So I guess this is the most common understanding of Prophet, as if, leave him alone. Do not be lost. Do not get lost with his actions. His message is already carried to us through Quran, and this is enough. We should be worried about the message. What you are saying is not saying. And the way I see it, I might be, overloading what you said, but the way I see what you said is not the same. You are saying that there's no such thing as actions of the Prophet which looks at the practical life, which has nothing with the religion, which has nothing with belief or divine unity. So we should, there's no such thing, you are saying. So we cannot leave him alone. So we cannot, forget about his actions, because his actions was interpretation of the message, and without these interpretations, we will get lost. So again, this is, if you ask me, this is something really hard to accept. This is a heavy claim. So yeah, thank you for being courageous and sharing this. Go ahead, please, Sway.
I don't know if you can hear me. I'm driving, but so what Yusuf said, the thing is, you don't see what the Prophet believes, as in, like, you just see his outward physical manifestation. So it's as if almost you have to get into his own mind, see how he sees the world. And the only way you can do that is just to look at his action and interpret his action through an understanding of the Quran. Because explicitly he doesn't, Muhammad doesn't give a explanation of how to believe, or like a written document of how to understand the Quran. No such thing exists out there. So, it's as if, like, when you read the Quran or read some verse, you're almost even looking into his own sort of worldview right there. Because the Quran is his worldview. And the only way to understand what the Quran is saying is by seeing what he does do or does not do, what he says or what he doesn't say. Otherwise, it's not explicit. Like no one out there can say how he believes. That's why even during his time there were people making an interpretation of the Quran. What does it mean? But I think that is really the most important point. Are you making an interpretation? That's really, to me, his sunnah, or his way, his method. So somebody who says that I'm going to do a literal reading of the Quran is not following the sunnah, because he doesn't. If it were that case, then he wouldn't be allowing others to make an interpretation as to what it means to them. And to me, that is what the method is. Otherwise, you can't. There's no exegesis. He doesn't have a work like Mercy telling you what the Quran means.
Jazakallah khair. Like what you said is really important in this specific context. 12th proof, making the interpretation or reading the creation, or even reading the Quran and then interpreting the Quran rather than literal reading is the biggest sunnah of Prophet. And in this part also it says, the one with the 1,000 decorations has stopped by it and is explaining its meaning to everyone. So I guess just like you said, Suhail, he's telling us that, the author is telling us that the Quran is there to be interpreted. Quran is there to be understood in the through the interpretation of the creation. So yes, this is the biggest sunnah. Jazakallah khair. Any other comments? Okay, it seems like no. Yusuf, are you satisfied with this part, or any other comments, questions you have? Ashenu, please go ahead.
So the sentence that we had just read of the styles of the decree so shine that they attract everyone's appreciative gaze and speak of matters so important and serious that everyone is compelled to give ear to them. I mean, at first I was thinking that this, you know, is about how I felt like the authors, Nursi's choice of the words here are very conscious in that, you know, appreciative gaze, in that whatever this speech is telling me is something that I am made to need, made to appreciate, in the sense that it speaks to my human needs. And because of that I am compelled to listen to it and take it seriously. But in conjunction with that, I was also thinking about Brother Muhammad Syed's question that he wrote in the comments, and he can elaborate further. But since I brought it up, I'll just read his comment. He said that when the scripture is not interesting and attractive, which is the case for so many people, and sometimes including myself, what does that mean for me? Is it related to the previous 11 proofs as part of the process? So, I mean, I was just wondering, you know, am I taking it for granted? I mean, I can only speak for myself as I interact with the Quran, with the speech, of what it means to me, whether it speaks to me and addresses my questions as a human being. But it's also, I guess, you know, there are times when it does not, when I have to, I guess, be more, try to more consciously try to see what there is for me to appreciate, and try to see the seriousness of the message that it is trying to convey to me. So I guess, I mean, I had basically the same question as Brother Muhammad Syed, and I'm wondering, I guess, as well, of whether it's a process that leads up from these proofs that the text we've been following has laid out so far.
Please, Suhail, go ahead, but be careful, you're driving.
So, you know, my thought on that is that Nursi, I think we read this maybe a month ago, where Nursi says that the reason or the intellect doesn't tire, but it's the heart that tires out. And to me, this is kind of where the issue is, that sometimes we just feel like we want to just experience, or kind of go through life without having to ignore our ability to reason or understand or make sense of what things mean, our experiences mean, our observations mean, and just kind of live life. Because I guess it's more convenient to do so. Because if you had to really think about it, then your life may completely change, or you wouldn't be doing the things you'd be doing. really radically change both your inward and outward aspect of life. I guess to me that may be the biggest issue, and then the other issue is that are we understanding the Quran or reading the Quran as being relevant to me and explaining my life experiences? If I don't have a problem, if I don't feel compelled to explain them, like to solve them, because I'm quote unquote, if it's even possible, though I don't think it is, if it's possible to be content with living life just experiencing, going from one moment to the next as it's dying, then you don't really need the Quran to explain anything. It's kind of redundant. Well, not even redundant, it's useless. So it's, trying to have that mindset that I need things to make sense. I need to extract meaning from things because I can't live without meaning.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. Any other comments? Asim, please go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't get Suhail's first point. If you can repeat that. I'm sorry, so I think you're breaking up, Suhail.
Can you hear me?
So I really want to hear what Suhail says, but he's driving, so I don't want to, put him
So just
in a position.
just to add to his second point about if we don't have the questions, or if we are not really genuinely concerned with what a human being is, then definitely the Quran will not be something that will be interesting to us. As human beings, maybe there are times, we go through different stages and different feelings and senses, but really there are some certain questions that really bother human beings, but that's where guidance comes in handy, or becomes necessary, and that's where the appreciation, or the seeking the answers, solving the riddles comes in. From what I understood, Suhail was saying also that if somebody is not really concerned with all these things, then the scripture wouldn't help much. If the interest of somebody is something else, then there is no need. What the scripture answers, or what the Quran is answering, is something that is really important and serious to what they, that matters to the human questions, as Aisha Nur was saying as well. So to me, really, it's about, having the question first, or being prepared to really seek the answers. That's where the appreciation for the scripture would come. Otherwise, it's just not gonna work.
Suhail, you're insisting, go ahead.
I don't know if you can hear me now, but what I had said was that I think a month ago we read where Nursi says that the reason doesn't tire, but it's the heart that tires. Because if you think about it, reasoning in and of itself is, it doesn't make weary the individual. What makes, I guess, weary the individual is what they're experiencing. That can be very burdensome. And sometimes I think man he feels rather than wanting to make sense of things, because then he realizes what kind of life he is living, maybe right or wrong. He just decides, I'm just going to go live my life. I'm just going to experience. I'm just going to make observations. I'm going to go to a lab and conduct experiments, but not make sense of what they mean. I'm going to feel certain feelings. I'm going to look at the sun, a sunrise, and enjoy the sunrise, but it doesn't mean anything. To me, or it means something, but I won't make sense of it. And I think it's a human condition to do that, because when you realize what's happening, then I think, as Norsi says, you realize you are being spoken to by one from above, by the king, and therefore you really have to pay attention. It's a very serious matter that's taking place at every moment. But man, that requires man's ego to be cut down or to submit, and that's a difficult task.
Thank you. So with this, everyone's attention wander. So can we understand that the author is telling us the message in Quran looks to everyone? It's not for Muslim, it's not for the group X, group Y, but the message is for everyone. Everyone needs this message, and this is why Quran, at least partially, this is why Quran is a proof of divine unity, because its message unites all creatures. It's a message for everyone. Whoever created you and me and she and her and him, he is the one, and this message is coming from the one. So yes, he says, everyone is compelled to give ear to them. Maybe in our practical life we don't see that. Some people say, oh, I don't care. Some people say, I read it and it was nonsense. But I guess what author is trying to say that the message should be understood in a way that it looks to everyone. It's about all humanity. It's about all creatures. And when we don't have this attraction, when we don't have this appreciative gaze, it's probably because we trying to read message to Quran in a wrong way. We're reading Quran as if it's not coming from the one, as if it's not coming from the single source, the divine unity. So I'm pausing. Okay, Yusuf, go ahead, please.
It's really interesting when you look at the humanity. For example, there was a claim for the Lord of the Rings. It says humans are classified into two. One is the one that read the Lord of the Rings, and the other that will read the Lord of the Rings. But for sure, the Lord of the Rings is not the most read book on earth. But when you look at humanity, scriptures are being mostly studied somehow across the globe. I mean, there's no single other book which are as much studied, or because these scriptures are out there, and over centuries they kept being studied. So this is an interesting point. Why is this specifically happening for those scriptures and not for any other man-made books? So this might be another, in itself, an interesting point to consider, I guess.
Interesting point. So yes, we usually take it as a fact of sociology. The scriptures are studied because they're part of the culture there. But you are saying that just the mere fact that they are being studied that much, and they are being kept saying through all these centuries, it's by itself is a miracle. It's a fact that needs to be interpreted.
So I guess there had been a lot of dictators, especially within the last century, and those dictators have their own books. But dictators are gone, their regime is gone, their books are forgotten. But as for the scriptures, the prophets were really no kings. Moses was not a king, Jesus was not a king, Muhammad was not a king, yet they were the scripture that they brought, the message that they brought, are still being read. So, I mean, there is something not explainable with the power, with the society, because, I mean, they were as if like loners. Maybe not in the case of Moses, as it is being narrated, but for Jesus and Muhammad, they were just loners within their society. Still, the message got still being studied as of today. So it's an interesting phenomenon, I guess.
Please go ahead, Muhammad.
I think the attractiveness of, by the way, thank you very much for all the comments. The attractiveness of the message in the Quran is directly related to my expectations, human expectations, because I see that they are being realized through the perspective coming from that message. My expectations are being realized at this moment. So the world turns into a satisfactory place. My life becomes meaningful. All the things that I don't like become meaningful and purposeful. So I think, the word, I would like to check and see, was it attractiveness? Yeah, attract everyone. And appreciative gaze is, it's a little bit also like surprising too. I feel that meaning is also included within the author's mind or in his words, that the experience that I am having is on one side, and the same experience becomes something that looks to eternity, that looks to a meaning. That is also a reason for the human mind to be attracted to something and be appreciative of that thing, whatever it is. In that sense, I think Quran's or the message of my Creator must be fulfilling my expectations, human expectations. I think the author is relying on this kind of definition of the Quran. So my question was related to like why it is not attractive sometimes. Now I see that even this questioning the scripture takes me to question the fundamentals of my existence. That is in itself is a kind of an help and guidance. And no one can provide it, nothing can provide it. Because no book really is inviting me to connect myself to something that is not the thing itself. I think that is also interesting.
There is a comment from Hatice Beyza. It's a long one. So she says the 11 proofs, I guess she's referring to previous 11 proofs. 11 proofs so far have laid the foundations for the necessity and unity of God. The previous 11 proofs, maybe 10, the 11th one was about the prophethood, have laid the foundations for the necessity and unity of God, drawing my attention to the universe, interconnected of things in the universe to one another and to me. So drawing our attention to the universe and how we are ourselves is a part of the universe, embedded in the universe. Or for some others, drawn in the water of the universe. To one another and to me, and thereby my own creativeness and need for guidance within my impotence and human needs that I cannot satisfy within the universe. That was a single sentence. She's clearly following the footsteps of Mercy, the author. So she says, the previous proofs have laid the foundation for the necessity and unity of God by drawing our attentions to the universe, how we are part of the universe, our needs, ourselves, our impotence, and human needs that we cannot satisfy. That was the attraction on the stage. And then she continues, in doing so, once I conclude that the one who gave existence to me must also guide me, then I find myself compelled to listen. So, okay, she's explaining this being compelled or attracted. Then I find myself compelled to listen to, appreciate, and respect. To the degree that I am aware of my own neediness and need for guidance. I guess this is also what Muhammad Said just said. To the extent I'm aware of my neediness and my need for guidance, I respect and put my attention to listen the message, the guidance. Appreciate, respect the one who explains his message to me. Compelled to listen to that one and the one who explains his message to me. The scripture and the prophet, I guess. It's really fun to try to interpret people's writing rather than letting them speak. By this way I speak more than anyone else, which is... let's continue, inshallah. And thank you, Ajabeza, that was a beautiful summary. For it describes all the qualities, acts, comments, and attributes of the one who governs this whole land, who made this palace and exhibits these wonders. For it describes all the qualities, acts, comments, and attributes of the one who governs this whole land. Any ideas, comments with this part? Great. People are a little bit lazy today. So what I understand is, so our attention are compelled or attracted, and we are compelled to listen because it gives answers to all our questions. It makes sense, it explains whatever happening around us. So we see all these qualities, observe all these actions, and we feel or experience all these comments, and we reach all these attributes through these observations, or we see these attributes, but most of the times we cannot make sense of them, and this message comes and explains to us, or maybe from another perspective, we observe all these, and then this message comes and claim ownership of everything we observe, everything we see, saying that these qualities, these actions, they all belong to me. So again, I guess this is important because this message is about everything that I have access to. It's all my experiences. So I'm compelled to listen because it's about me, like everything I interact with, all these qualities, actions. So any others take from this part? Hadija, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to thank you first for reading the comment and interpreting it better than I could have. Secondly, one other thing that attracted my attention here was, in the beginning it says this luminous decree, which gives a sense of authority, right? So that's why I felt like, you know, it's building upon all these previous proofs, but at the same time, there's it continues to say, where does it say it? Which descends from above, and which everyone looks on in rapt attention out of either wonder or veneration. So there's a sense of wonder and respect to the authority too, because it's one thing to recognize a sense of authority, but it's another thing to also respect that authority as well. So for example, I might recognize that I have to stop at a red light, but if there are no cameras and I don't really respect the authority, and there are no other police cars around, I might just, you know, just speed or just keep going on a red light. I might not come to a full stop. So for me, that was one thing that attracted my attention. Like in recognizing the an authority, I also recognize my need for the authority as well. That I'm compelled to listen to it and follow it because it addresses a need within me. And then for it describes all the qualities, acts, commands, and attributes of the one who governs this whole land, who made this palace and exhibits these wonders. Again, just like the interconnectedness of my needs, my the necessity, or the need for satisfaction of my human needs within all of these different, within the order that I find myself in, within my existence, is it's drawing my attention to it, and again, just tying it back to the sense of authority and respect, and also wonder and amazement as well, in relation to these things. I'm not sure if that made entirely a lot of sense, but hopefully you can interpret that jumble as well.
To me, it makes sense. Jazakallah khair. I don't think it requires any further interpretation. Any other ideas? But there's one comment before us, and I give you the mic. From Mohammed Said, which is really beautiful. Mohammed says, it invites human beings to confirm and see the things as being made by the owner of the universe versus things happening. So rather than just seeing things happening, this Quran message tells us or invites us to see them as being made by the owner of the universe. So this is really important from many different aspects. Only one of them, just one of them, is when we say it is made by owner of the universe, that means we have someone to address our questions, our needs. That means we are not alone. That means there is someone with a quote-unquote personality, taking care of everything, including us. As Brother Ali was saying in retreat, rather than, instead of it, a he, not gender specific, but something with consciousness, taking care of things rather than things happening. And I guess this is more than enough to attract at least my attention. Okay, let's conclude the paragraph. Just as there is a mighty stamp on the decree as a whole, look, there is an inimitable seal on every line and every sentence, and moreover the meanings, truths, comments, and instances of wisdom it states. Moreover, the meanings, truths, comments, and instances of wisdom it states are seen to be in a style particular to him, thus bearing the meaning of a stamp. So message which explains everything, which looks at every aspect of human, which describes all the qualities, acts, comments, attributes of the one who governs this whole land, such a message itself has the stamp of this single being, the one who made this palace, every sentence, every line having a stem of this part which is particular to him alone. So there is no doubt of the divine unity. In short, the supreme decree shows the supreme being as clearly as the sun, so that anyone who is not blind can see it. The supreme decree shows the supreme being as clearly as the sun, so that anyone who is not blind can see it. So the next paragraph concludes the entire discussion. So I will not read it. Just one point that I want to make is the obstinate person. He says every single proof was sufficient by itself to demonstrate the truth, but because with each successive proof clearer, pleasanter, more agreeable, more luminous final levels of knowledge, veils in acquaintanceship, and windows of love were opened and revealed, I waited and listened. Go ahead, please, Abdurrahman.
Could you tell me when we ever talked about windows of love?
When we talked about the windows of love.
Or how that was opened?
Any ideas?
So I don't recall such things.
He doesn't recall the windows of love, so I'm so angry, so I'm not sure I'm in position to answer. Not seeing love in this text, anyway, but please help me remind him how window of love was opened.
I'm sorry, I could not understand the last conversation between you and Abdurrahman.
Abdurrahman was asking when we studied the windows of love, or how windows of love was opened, he asked. Because in the text, the obstinate one says, okay, I agree with you now, the proof was sufficient enough, but I listen because with every different proof, a new window of love was opened and so on. And Abdurrahman was saying, we didn't study anything about love. And yeah, and I'm asking you whether you can remind him how we studied windows of love, or how we open the windows of love.
To me, it's being here is a solely choice of my source of existence from its love. I am granted an eternal existence without doing nothing, and the continuation of my existence is deliberately implying that I am being loved, and the way the world is organized for me and for my needs are all signs of being taken care of. Having friends is another sign. So,
any other comments on that part? Feria, would you like to remind us about the love, which is your expertise, kind of? I'm referring to retreat.
Well, I mean, I guess Brother Said said it eloquently, but like everything we experience is really, if we really ponder over it, it's really out of love and mercy. So even whatever we reflect on, or whatever we realize, right, when we realize something which really makes sense to us, which really brings meaning to one's existence, right? It's out of love. So just a teacher-student analogy, right? A teacher will not give extra homework or will not give a 0 to a student because, you know, because he's not, like, a 0 or extra homework will be assigned to a student out of care, right? Because the teacher is concerned for the well-being of the student. So although at first glance the student may see it as perhaps like, you know, oh, I'm not being loved, like, what is this? This is being thrown at me. But no, later on when things start making sense, you know, the student realizes that everything is out of love and mercy. And it's really all around us. Every moment we are experiencing this sense, but it's just that, are we tuned into that, or do I have my switch on, or am I just, you know, it's all about the connection, like the 3 C's, right? Am I convinced, first of all, that I must have an owner that's taking care of all my needs? But that's not enough. With being convinced, I also need to connect now to this one that's taking care of my need. So the connection is a must. And then with the connection, because we want the love to be reciprocated, right? So with the connection then comes the commitment, where you are in acknowledgement of the source of existence of, you know, whatever feeling you're experiencing, right? Like, it can be any kind of feeling, really, but once you recognize really what this feeling points to, that's you know, it points to, you know, a one that's loving, a one that's caring, a one that's you know, taking care of you at every moment.
Jazakallah khair. Yusuf, please go ahead then.
Well, I guess he started with, initially we were foreigners in this existence, and at every stage author made us realize that we are not foreigners. So it is as if you go to somewhere and you feel like you're totally an outsider, everybody is against you, you're just trying to survive by yourself. But step by step, the author showed us that no, this is a palace, it has an owner, and you are guest of honor in here. So as we get to know the maker of the house, then also follows a love for the owner of the house, because now we are guest of honor. So I guess getting to know is being followed by love of the owner of the house.
That's a great point. And together with what others said, like, yeah, from the beginning, he started talking about the palace. So what the place that you are put is a palace. It's a well-ordered palace which is taken care of, which is being taken care of every instant. Like, that was one of the proofs. Somebody is taking care of the palace. In another proof, he talked about life, how life was a proof of divine unity, living being or animate beings. And I guess as soon as we talk about life comes to love. You are given life. You are not a chair. So, such a lovely gift which is given to you. And then he takes care of you as well. Your every single, you know, the hair, string,
Follicle.
follicle? Nah.
If I'm right.
Anyway, every single hair, like, it's taken care of. So whoever is the owner is definitely the one who loves you. As you know about the divine unity, you know more about how much you are being loved. And then he doesn't leave you alone. He puts all these messages in creation, so that all these messages will act as a stamp for him. And then he goes further and sends you the messenger. He sent you a messenger from among yourself, so that you can make sense of yourself, the creation, and the Creator even further. So every need of you is being taken care of. Okay.
Any revelation for that matter. There's a verse in the Quran, I can't remember exactly, but it's about how he says that, it wasn't necessary for him to reveal, but it's out of his mercy that he sent down the revelation. So in that sense, the speech is like a manifestation of his like mercy, compassion, and love as well to man. Otherwise, man would be in ignorance. And to live in ignorance, to go through life and not know as to what life means, what is its purpose, and then to die, that would be hell on earth. So to not engage, to not engage with the speaker, even though he's demonstrated love, not only from, giving you life, but truthfully, more importantly, giving you the means to understand everything, to explain what all your life experiences and life occurrences mean. Like, what does it point to through the divine speech? To not sort of engage with him when he shows you that out of his absolute mercy, compassion, and love, to me would be sort of the greatest sort of rejection. It's like when somebody shows you that offering, makes that offer to you, absolute specifically, and you reject that, there is no greater evil done in the cosmos than that.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. الفاتحة.